Welcome back to Resounding the Human, a podcast series that highlights the work of Inform's members who are transforming the world around us in ways both big and small. I'm your host, Ashley Kay, and today we have Cynthia Rudin with Duke University, Charles Isbell with the University of Wisconsin, and Michel Littman with the National Science Foundation for a preview of their plenary session, Making the Most of This AI Moment, a Fireside Chat. Before we start, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos. All right, let's get started. Cynthia, Charles, Michel, I'm so glad we were all able to schedule time together to talk on the podcast as we count down to this year's Inform's annual meeting and your plenary session Fireside Chat.
Happy to be here.
To start, I'd love to hear how this session came together, both the topic and the key players, all of you, and what unique perspective each of you brings to the conversation.
Well, I think we can credit Polly Mitchell Guthrie for starting this. It was her idea. She set it all up, but to be honest, she just asked for things and I say yes to them, and my life is better for doing that.
I assume that Polly wanted Charles to do it, and so I was invited along to help make sure that Charles would come along. This has been my role in many parts of the world. And so, yeah, happy to be here facilitating the presence of Charles.
The two of you together are the two funniest people in all of AI. There's no way she would have invited one but not the other one.
Yeah, I just assumed that she wanted Michel and then invited me so that Michel would show up. Is that not how that worked?
It is definitely not. So Charles was asked to give the keynote at the NeurIPS conference, which is in many ways the largest machine learning AI conference on the planet. I got an email, this was a couple summers ago. The headline, the subject line was offered to do keynote at NeurIPS. And I'm like, yes, I finally did it. I finally broke through, and the community, they love me. They want to hear from me. And I read down in the messages like, we're trying to get Charles to agree to do this and he won't respond to our email. So do you know how to reach him? I'm like, I do actually. And I got him to do it. And then Charles, as I guess a way of thanking me, invited me to actually be part of the keynote. So we got to do it together, which was super fun.
We did a 45-minute movie. This was during COVID. So we did a 45-minute movie on the theme of responsibility in machine learning and AI based on A Christmas Carol.
And I got to be Scrooge. So that was very satisfying.
That seemed right. To me.
And the several thousand people who watched it are probably still laughing about it. It's so funny.
It was a lot of fun.
It was. And when we were deciding, like, who do we want to hear from in the community to really kind of get across the idea of what it means to think about these things responsibly, we're like, we got to get Cynthia. So Cynthia was actually interviewed as part of that keynote. So all three of us appeared in that particular show, as it were.
Yeah. You were one of the ghosts of machine learning future, I believe. Yeah.
It's too bad we don't have Halloween decorations. That would be really appropriate right now.
If only I hadn't taken them down from this professional podcast. All right. What do you think are some of the sort of prevailing misconceptions the public has about AI that you hope to address in your session?
That's a very fun question, because I think it's really interesting because there's misconceptions all across the whole spectrum. There's like people who think, well, AI doesn't do anything. And there's other people who think AI is going to control all our minds for all eternity. And I think all of these things are misconceptions. I think the more that we can understand what AI is today, what it could be tomorrow, and what our joint role is in all of it, I think that's really going to set us on a much better path.
I think it's exactly right that when I think about AI and how the world sort of sees it and how people talk about it, I'm simultaneously thinking you're way overthinking this. You think it's way more powerful than it's ever going to be. None of that's ever going to happen. But also you are so underthinking it, and it's so much more powerful, and it's so much going to change what it is that we do in every aspect of our lives. I think you could talk about it as just the next phase of computing. And if you think about it that way, computers and data and networking and all of that, then it's both simple and not all that mystifying. But on the other hand, think about how radically different the world is from, say, 1990 even, when we first started the world started getting on what would be called the World Wide Web. This is before social media, before Google was a thing. Think about how radically different the world is in the space of less than a generation. I expect that it'll be radically different in the space of less than a generation because of AI. And so it's both a simple extension of what we've been doing and completely world and society changing.
I agree with the sentiment there. So one way in which I think people are overreacting is like, AI can think for itself. It's it's a thinking, living, breathing creature. It's like, no, it's not. But I think some ways we're underthinking it are things like invasion of privacy. I read yesterday about these guys who hooked up some eyeglasses to facial recognition system to the internet, and they were able to like walk up to people and be like, oh yeah, I think I know you from the blah, blah, blah place where you work. And they're like, oh yeah, I do work there. And, and get them to reveal information that they normally wouldn't have. So that's the kind of stuff that I really don't like,
So kind of within that same vein, will the role of ethics in the use and governance of AI be something you hope to tackle in this session?
I would think so. In fact, when I think about ethics, and my colleagues here might have a different take on it, I tend to avoid the use of the word ethics. I tend to think about it in terms of responsibility, because I think that what that centers, at least for me, is that this is a technology and a tool over which we have some control, over which we will be partnering with it. And so we can talk about the ethics of a weapon, or we can talk about our responsibility to use that weapon, to develop that weapon, and to provide defenses against that weapon, right? So for me, when I think about it as it's on us as opposed to the technology, and that therefore it is a matter of responsibility. Responsibility to use the technology, responsibility to development of the technology, responsibility of building an ecosystem and educating the public so that they know how to think about that technology. And so really it comes back to us. So I tend to think about it as responsibility.
So now what about public accessibility to AI? How do you see this expanding moving forward?
It's one of the things that's super interesting is that when ChatGPT was released, it'll be the 2-year anniversary shortly, people were really stunned. And one of the things that's interesting about it is that for researchers, we'd actually had access to things like this for like a year or two, and we were already stunned and interested and kind of engaged with what it would be. But it wasn't until it had general accessibility, that everybody had an opportunity to just like make an account and try it out, that people were like, oh, wait, these words that you're saying, these mean something to me now because I've actually played with it myself, and I'm mystified as to how this could be real. So I think accessibility is absolutely essential for getting people to be a part of this process, right? Because it was just too abstract and too arm's length, I think, until people could actually play with it directly on their own.
Do you guys think that having ChatGPT accessible is going to make people better writers in general? Like,
no, I have strong feelings about this. Which
okay, let's hear it.
I suspect we will end up talking about it later, but the analogy to me is that, all of us in, our careers now, what we are is we're good editors, right? Because people give us things, whether it's the next paper we're submitting to NeurIPS, or whether it's the policy that's about to get distributed on this campus around, I don't know, statements on events of the day, or what we're going to do for a dear colleague letter, whatever it is, we're editors, right? We start with something, we edit it. But the way to be a good editor is to be a good writer first. And I think what ChatGPT-like tools give you is the ability to skip the writing and to go straight to editing. And I think that that is a long-term problem in the way that we think about these tools. That no, I don't think that we'll be better writers because of this. We will in fact skip several steps. And so we're going to have to figure out how to get around that. That's my very strong opinion.
I agree with Charles with what you're saying. But on the other hand, if we can actually get through that process and realize, oh, this isn't a substitute for learning to write, this is a substitute for being able to edit more efficiently, then we will be better writers, right? We will actually have the ability to employ these tools to get a lot more done in terms of expressing ourselves and expressing ourselves clearly. One of the things that I tend to use chatbots for myself, I don't use it for a lot of stuff, but sometimes I forget a word. It's like, what's that word that means that you need to take responsibility and it starts with an A? So I type all that in. It's like, you mean accountability? I'm like, yes, I don't know why I always forget that word. So I feel like I can actually express myself better by using these tools. But yes, I've got to learn how to write before these tools were available. We have to make sure that the next generation of students have that same opportunity, penalty, punishment, right, of actually going through the process of learning to be good writers.
Yeah, there's an interesting question of whether, for example, would we argue that access to Google makes people better researchers? It gives them tools to make it easier to do research, but in and of itself does not make one a better researcher. By the way, I would ask this question, well, I would maybe frame the question differently, or maybe about public accessibility. Yes, there will be more public accessibility. We're democratizing all kinds of things, but I actually think another way of thinking about it is about imposition. So because the technology is so easily and cheaply, and for all intents and purposes, free to distribute, what's actually going to happen is not just that I'm going to have access to tools, it's that the world is going to have access of imposing things on me. So it works both ways. And I think that's the second thing, is actually the thing that is revolutionary in some sense. Email lets me email people, yes, but it also means everyone can email me. And now I have a problem of spam. I have a problem of phishing.
This is why we invented this amazing email filter of people email me as a way of reaching Charles.
It all comes to one thing.
It all comes back.
So we've talked quite a bit now about ChatGPT. Do you think there's another sort of big notable application coming down the AI pipeline along those same lines?
Yes. Now you can ask someone else what it is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think about ChatGPT as being like the most brilliant hack in the universe because like it's doing something very sophisticated in a very complicated way. But it's just like, oh, we're just going to feed it all the text that we already were collecting because the internet. And so it's this nice combination of a good technical idea and availability of a certain kind of data that enables a certain thing to happen. But that certain thing is just a certain thing. It's not everything. It's not general intelligence. It's not the ability to interact. It's not the ability to solve certain kinds of problems. We don't know what the next breakthrough will be. It probably requires, like, to actually get to a new level of capability, we probably need a new technique. Like this one technique was so successful, but in its own little narrow way. And so I do feel like, yeah, what Charles said, I don't know how we're going to get to that next thing, but I don't think it's just, hey, let's just feed more text to this thing. And it's just going to get smarter and smarter and smarter until, I don't know, singularity. That doesn't feel like how extrapolation works.
Here's one thing that I think could be the next big thing for AI, right? Is personal assistant. So I want to book a flight to Informs. So what do I got to do? I got to go to a website and try to figure out what all the flights are, try to figure out if there's a flight that is at a good time after my class. So I know I'm just teaching the class. And, I sort of know kind of vaguely what I wanted in terms of prices. And I know I want a direct flight and blah, blah, blah. All this stuff. It would be nice if like my assistant could know that already and like say, hey, Cynthia, is it okay if I book you this flight? What do you think? And then I could go, yeah. And then it would just do it. And I wouldn't have to fiddle around with all the websites trying to make sure that the hotel is available for the same dates and blah, blah, blah. The assistant could just do it. Okay. And ChatGPT, yes, it's not reliable, but it's reliable for very specific, very certain things. And so the question is, can we build something that is quite reliable, maybe not 100% reliable, but very close to 100% reliable that can do some of this really boring stuff that nobody really likes to do?
That's the thing that I've been thinking about, and that's been motivating me for, I don't know, feels like decades now. It's exactly that. The assistant, and by the way, one step further, the assistant who's a companion who knows what you're doing and living and growing up with you since you were a child. I will just, by way of analogy, a good friend of mine, professor named Michel Littman, was once asked a question, which is, what's your favorite programming language? And what he said is, well, I now use a high-level programming language called grad student. And what I do is I tell the grad student what I want, and the grad student does something which is close to what I wanted. And then, we sort of work it out from there. And I think that this is sort of what this is. You want to, where we're going to end up, hopefully, is it knows some of what you want. Maybe before you do, you ask it to do these things, and there's a kind of ongoing negotiation about how to get there. And as it learns more and more about you, you have less and less of that negotiation.
So your session description mentions the role of comedy and humor in talking about AI. I think we've already gotten a taste of that, but I'd love if you could shed some more light on what you mean by this and also why it's important.
I think education is about communication, and I think communication requires connection, and humor is a thing that I use to help make connection. And that's so when I'm teaching classes, I want the students to be in that frame of mind where they're open to ideas and they're willing to play with them. And for me, like getting up there and being all gloom and doom, like if you don't pay attention to this, the whole world is going to fall apart. Like first of all, I can't sell that. It's not who I am. But second of all, I don't think that puts people in the frame of mind where they're going to be creative, they're going to be playful, and they're going to solve problems. I think that makes them want to protect themselves and should hunker down and shut down and just shut out the rest of the world. And I don't think that's what education is about. So I don't know. I am what I am. Charles is what he is. Cynthia is who she is. Like, we just do what we do. But sure, we can pretend that this is actually a brilliant strategy that it could have gone some other way.
Okay, no matter what AI can do, okay, AI can do a lot, but there's no replacement for me being in a room watching you two talk to each other, because it's the funniest thing in the world.
Chatbots talking to each other can be pretty funny too, but not in the same way.
No,
it's more like a
they tend to very
kind of
quickly spiral down into
right, which is hilarious, but it also not incredibly informative because they're not connecting with us. We're just mocking them because they're foolish.
Are there any questions that you're hoping to get from attendees during the Q&A?
I'd like to know what people are really truly worried about. Like, don't, you have some people on stage who have been thinking about this for a very long time. We worry about some of the same things. We have some experiences in them. What are the real world implications? This technology, what are you really thinking about? Think questions about whatever you need to know to understand what's happening now, but the kinds of questions that allow us to talk about 5 years, 15, 25 years from now, because we're going to be living in that world. And it is going to be as different 15 years from now as it was 15 or 20 years ago. And would love to have conversations around what we have to do to both make that happen and what we have to do to prepare for it.
I'm worried about what people don't know. So like I said, there's these, now this is exactly what I was hoping wouldn't happen. These glasses I was telling you about, where strangers walk up to you and they know everything about you. Hey, you want to walk around the street thinking you have some level of privacy. Well, that's going to go away if these guys are allowed to do this. So nobody seems to be worried about that stuff other than me.
Scary about that is not that the technology is going to be there and that people are going to do it. It's that people are going to willingly let them, not just develop the technology and deploy it, but they're going to participate. And I mean, we do this now, right? I mean, Steve Jobs, wherever he is, knows exactly where I am and where I've been. Elon Musk does as well. And there's a data trail of me that goes back decades. And I am very happily participating in it because it makes my life a little bit easier. And I'm hoping that because everyone else is participating in it, no one's actually going to take advantage of it and do anything. On a lighter note.
Yeah, these companies, I agree.
This is supposed to be funny, gang.
I had a question for Ashley, which is, how did you get an advanced copy of Meta's new glasses? Those look so cool.
Yes, they're also being unveiled. Cynthia, the AI bot, and the new glasses are all part of the session here promoting it.
You guys are behind. I've got AI contacts.
Oh, wow.
They're slightly blue tinted. That's how you can tell.
Nice.
All right. Ultimately, what do you hope attendees take away from your session regarding the future of AI and with this particular audience, their role in it?
It's the role in it. That's the thing that I'm most excited about. And the notion that I like to say, it's not as bad as you think, which is to say it's bad. It's just not as bad as you think. And it's going to get better if you can actually participate in the process of sort of getting it back on track. So that's, if people leave feeling empowered and focused, I think that would be fantastic.
For me, the key issue is that they have a role in it. This is not a thing that is happening to us. This is a thing that we are participating in, just like everything else.
Well, Informs it's got a lot of people in management science, right? So you've got a lot of people here who are connected with very big, powerful companies, and maybe this will allow them to think about these issues more carefully.
So something I've enjoyed asking each of our plenaries to share is, how does the Informs tagline, "Smarter Decisions for a Better World," resonate with you and the work that you do? I'd love to have you each share your perspective.
We think about machine learning and artificial intelligence. So I want to expand that a little bit. And it's not just smarter decisions on our behalf, but smarter decisions that involve us, right? Smarter joint decisions.
I think that's exactly right. In fact, we go back to this example of personal assistant, a personal companion, right? That is it. It's a set of joint decisions. I mean, humans are many things, but one of the things that we are is that we are part of larger groups. And now we're just introducing something artificial that's going to be a part of the larger social group that we're going to be a part of, that we're going to build. And if we do it right, there'll be smarter decisions. But the second half of that really matters, right? It's not just that they're smarter decisions, but it's for the better world part. And I think the one thing that all three of us have in common is not just that we care about the technology and we can take derivatives and we find it kind of interesting to talk about equations, but that sort of better world part really matters, that this is a social as well as technological and political event that we are living through. And when you're living through those things, the hope is to come out on the other end where it's going to be better for people to be able to do more, make better decisions, yes, be able to be more empowered in what they do, have more access to knowledge, whatever it is that they are, and that they're very conscious and thinking about that so that our descendants will be in a better place than they would have been otherwise. That sounds really, but that's because it is, right? That's the whole point of the exercise.
Charles wants his descendants to know his name, right?
do.
Like 3 or 4 generations, like after he's gone. That's one of the goals.
Yeah, so one of the things I've always cared about is immortality. And when I was younger, I kind of thought I could do that. I could live forever. But every year, as my lower back reminds me that that's not likely to happen. So given that, what is the closest thing to immortality? The closest thing to immortality is your great-great-grandchildren know your name, right? That they have some connection with you. One of the nice things I think about this technology we're building, and that the World Wide Web exists, and that AI exists, and that we have ways to represent what we do, is that we actually have a pretty good chance that our descendants will all know who we are, hopefully for good reasons. And so the better world part is kind of important for that.
a few years ago, all of us were just professors. But now look what's going on. So Charles is completely changing education by being a provost, right? And Michael is at NSF, advancing science. And I'm spending a good chunk of my time doing volunteer work for a government committee that, hopefully will help advise the White House. And I also do a lot of stuff to try to impact potential regulation of AI. So all of us are doing things other than just being professors. So we are trying to help the world make better decisions in education, in science, and in regulation. So I think the Informs slogan, it works for us.
All right, Charles, what's your favorite food to put in your mouth?
My favorite foods in order are bacon,
Who does like
cheese,
bacon?
and chocolate. All kinds of chocolate, all kinds of cheese, all kinds of bacon.
And yet I put them together for him once and he hated it.
That is not true. That is not true at all. Have you ever had chocolate covered bacon? It's fantastic.
With cheese?
Yeah, with cheese.
Okay.
Dip it in cheese. It's really good.
All right, never mind then.
No, but those are my favorite foods in that order.
Sounds like a combination of fondues there.
Yes,
You dip the
yes.
one and then-
Oh, all the fondue categories. Yeah.
I ordered all my food, all my bacon I order online from a place called Newski's. They have something called bacon steak, which is a super thick bacon. It's fantastic. And it turns out the home of Newski's is Wisconsin, which is one of the many reasons why I'm here.
I like rice.
But how come you're not working at Rice University then?
I talked to them on the phone the other day and I'm like, we need to do a collaboration because I'm at Brown University. You're at Rice University. Brown rice.
Brown rice.
It's
yeah.
right there.
Oh, wait, you never have
Yeah.
brown rice. You always have white rice.
I don't like brown rice, but I like the idea of a collaboration and calling it brown rice.
By the way, in case the viewers or listeners think he's kidding, I have watched him eat, and he will always ask for more rice, and he will eat bowls and bowls and bowls of the stuff.
I'll
So
admit I was
it's fun.
waiting for there to be a punchline, but nope.
No, I like
No,
No,
rice.
he just likes rice.
You should try my toasted rice ice cream. It's really good. And the first time I had it was when I was visiting Rice.
I'm having
Yeah.
cauliflower rice today. I don't know if that counts.
It does not.
Oh.
I mean, it's fine. It's good. It's good. It's not rice.
I'm telling you, toasted rice ice cream, the best flavor ever. It's got like toasty. Anyway.
There's
Rice
other
flavor?
snack foods that people think are rice that aren't. One is water ice, and
Water
the other one
what?
is liquor ice.
I don't know what any of that
Those-
is.
Water ice. It's like, oh, is that not it's maybe a Philadelphia thing. It's like shaved ice where you have like ice with like flavoring in it. We call it water ice, but it's got rice in the name. That was the joke. And then licorice also has rice in the name. And that's a joke that, yeah, again, this needs
No,
to be-
it's always important to explain a joke. That's how you know.
Yes, that's how you know it was a good one.
That's how you know it was good.
It's a thinker.
Yeah. I actually didn't get the licorice one. I don't think I ever would have. So thank you for sharing that.
You had to say it liquor rice or something like that.
I did say liquor
You
rice.
did say liquor, right? I didn't turn
And
it
then
in.
everyone's like, that's not a word. It's like,
I
yeah,
would've
that's
never
true.
got-
Let me try it again.
Never
Licorice.
got.
That's
This is
not
the thing.
spelled that
Years
way.
from now, I'd be walking down the street, probably eating some ice cream, and then I'd go, liquor rice. I get it. Yeah.
When Charles was the dean at Georgia Tech, he instituted a new thing where seminars and so forth would always have coffee and tea. He was like, and hot chocolate. And so hot chocolate is now just sort of a part of the standard way that things are catered there. Very important innovation.
When I became provost, I let all my deans know this. And so I visited all the schools and colleges, and one of them declared it Hot Chocolate Day when I showed up. And there was free hot chocolate for everyone. And everywhere I went, someone would say, would you like some hot chocolate? And so I drank my entire body weight in hot chocolate that day. It was a good day.
Oh my gosh.
For this before lunch, I'm going to have a really healthy meal after this. All right. Do you have any unique hobbies in your spare time?
Well, unique is an absolute, so I'm not sure that I have any unique hobbies. However, I am a collector. As of yesterday, I have 22,116 comic books.
I unicycle to work, but it's an electric unicycle, so I don't get sweaty.
You also sing, right? You sing.
Sure, I sing,
You
I
do
juggle.
stand-up comedy occasionally.
Just once in a while.
You unicycle to work around DC?
Well, it's Alexandria, Virginia. It's pretty suburban. It's not like street the way it is when you're downtown DC.
What is it? Like street waterways? Oh. By the way, I have seen him do this. Whenever I get to DC, if I have any spare time at all, we meet up, and he always meets me in his little unicycle thing and his helmet. And then he folds it up and he carries it.
Safety first.
How do you give him a ride on the unicycle? Does that?
He does not.
Okay.
All right, Cynthia, how about you?
I sing bluegrass songs about machine learning.
And I've heard her do that, and it is really a sight to behold. I highly recommend it.
If you could have another career that is completely different from what you're doing right now, what would it be?
I went with stuntman. What I wanted to be when I was young.
I'm designing room escape games.
I am
Ooh.
exactly what I thought I was going to do when I was 8.5. I'm perfectly happy with this.
The premise is that you have to choose something else for this question.
Why?
It's necessary for science that you actually comply.
But I'm doing all, okay, first off, I don't think that's true. I guess I'd be a contrarian. No, what I get to do all the things that I like to do, right? I get to be on
No
podcasts.
contrarian.
I get to
love
do
that.
music videos. I get to hang out and I'm doing all the other things that I would be doing. So the alternative to what I'm doing is doing nothing. So I'm totally happy with this. And I think that's a completely normal answer to that question.
Because I feel like the two things that I want to do are solve puzzles and perform. The only job I think that really lets you do those two things is professor. So it worked out for me. I'm happy with how it worked out.
I mean, you could be Bill Nye the Science Guy, but I guess that's the same kind of thing, isn't it?
But yeah, I don't think he gets to solve the same depth of puzzles that we
That's
get
true.
to do as academics.
Like the puzzles we're solving are, I mean, to Cynthia's earlier point, the
Yeah.
puzzles we're solving keep moving up and up and up the, I don't know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs or something.
That's usually the outcome to that question, is that once upon a time I wanted to be a firefighter or a ballerina, but I'm doing exactly what I was meant to do. So I think the same goes for everyone on this episode. So I want to thank you all again so much for taking time to talk with me. I am so looking forward to meeting you in person in Seattle for the 2024 Informs annual meeting, which is just right around the corner. I think we're at the 2-week mark now at the time of this recording, and I can't wait to meet you all there.
It'll be fun. Looking forward to it.
Everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on today's interview and the upcoming AI Fireside Chat plenary session at the 2024 Informs annual meeting in Seattle. All right, see you next time.